In other news, President Vladimir Zelenskyy had a more conciliatory tone on the second day of the summit, and this is after he criticized NATO leaders for not providing his country with a clear timeline for a membership in the alliance, saying that it is unprecedented and absurd. Carlo de la Peña tells us more.
Zelenskyy has accused NATO of not showing enough respect for its unwillingness for the immediate membership for Ukraine. The Ukrainian president made the remarks as NATO kicked off its summit in Vilnius, Lithuania, citing signals he had received which indicated that Ukraine would not be given an invitation of any sort to join NATO. In a statement on social media, Zelenskyy said, and quote, "We value our allies, we value our shared security, and we always appreciate an open conversation. Ukraine will be represented at the NATO summit in Vilnius because it is about respect, but Ukraine also deserves respect. It's unprecedented and absurd when a time frame is not set neither for the invitation nor for Ukraine's membership, while at the same time vague wording about conditions is added even for inviting Ukraine." End of quote. Zelenskyy also claimed that NATO's indecisiveness was a sign of the bloc's weakness. Reports citing the most recent version of NATO's draft communique states that it will be in a position to extend an invitation to Ukraine when allies agree and conditions are met. However, Zelenskyy hits out at NATO for its seemingly unreadiness to neither invite the country to the alliance nor to make it a member of it. According to the Ukrainian president, this means that a window of opportunity is being left to bargain Ukraine's membership in NATO in negotiations with Russia. The Ukrainian president's remarks did not go unnoticed by NATO, with a political report citing an unnamed senior diplomat from Central Europe saying that Zelenskyy was going too far and that such remarks is not a thoughtful and fair approach from him. U.S. Republican Senator Rand Paul also criticized Zelenskyy, saying that the Ukrainian president might need to recalibrate his complaints to avoid alienating his Western allies. Paul said, and quote, "We've given them $100 billion, and he has the audacity to be brazen as to tell us we'd better speed it up? I'd say that's audacious. I'd say it's brazen, and that's not very grateful for the $100 billion that we've given him so far." End of quote. Meanwhile, NATO has reaffirmed its readiness to give Ukraine membership at some point in the future, but it will be allowed to bypass the bloc's Membership Action Plan, or MAP, which is usually required for candidate members. NATO's statement read, and quote, "We reaffirm the commitment we made at the 2008 summit in Bucharest that Ukraine will become a member of NATO. And today we recognize that Ukraine's path to full Euro-Atlantic integration has moved beyond the need for the Membership Action Plan." End of quote. NATO said Ukraine has become increasingly interoperable and politically integrated with the US-led bloc, but outlined Ukraine's need for more democratic and security sectoral reforms. It can be remembered that NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that NATO must first ensure that Ukraine achieves a victory in its fight with Russia. However, the NATO chief warned that if Ukraine did not succeed, then its membership in the alliance will be out of the question. Reporting, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
The Treasury Chief of the United States warned that the country is still at risk of an economic downturn, saying that it is not off the table or cannot be ruled out yet. Hans Marshall reports.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that the United States is not yet out of the possibility of an economic recession. Yellen, in an interview with an American broadcast network, said it's appropriate and normal for growth to be moderate. Just recently, according to a report, the economy only added 209,000 jobs in June, the weakest since December 2020. The unemployment rate slightly decreased from 3.7% in May to 3.6% in the same month. However, the added jobs were fewer than in previous months. Meanwhile, even though it began to ease, inflation was still high after prices rose 4% year-over-year in May. This is still double from the 2% target of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Taking this into account, Yellen pointed out that the inflation is too high and did not rule out a potential recession. In a statement, she said, "We have a healthy economy, a great labor market, inflation too high, and a concern of ours and the American people, but coming down over time." Last week, the central bank also warned that a recession this year is quite likely, but probably won't be deep or prolonged. Meanwhile, the Bank of America on Tuesday agreed to pay $250 million in fines, as well as compensation to settle claims that it systematically double-charged customers' fees. The bank also reportedly withheld promised credit card perks and open accounts without the authorization of customers. The said bank agreed to pay $100 million in restitution to harmed consumers. Another $150 million will be paid for civil penalties after the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and so Office of the Comptroller of the Currency said Bank of America violated numerous laws starting in 2012. This is Hans Marshall reporting, SMNR News.
Meanwhile, Vermont is facing a devastating flood. Heavy rainfall has caused widespread destruction, leaving residents stranded and the city in a state of emergency. Here's more from Sigrid Castañeda.
Montpelier, the state capital of Vermont, is in a state of emergency due to severe flooding caused by heavy rainfall. The situation is described as catastrophic, with roadways impassable and residents stranded in their homes. Governor Phil Scott has declared the flooding in Vermont as historic and catastrophic. The downtown area of Montpelier is severely affected, with streets submerged in floodwaters reaching the windows of businesses and vehicles. The Wrightsville Dam near the city is at maximum capacity, posing a threat of further flooding if it spills over. Climate scientists link these extreme weather events to human-driven climate change. Other regions in the United States are experiencing soaring temperatures, such as scorching heat in Florida and Texas and extreme desert temperatures in California. Efforts to rescue stranded residents are underway, with search teams using swift boats to evacuate people from their homes and cars. Highway closures have made evacuations challenging, leaving residents urged to seek safety on higher floors. The flood brought a huge economic impact, with damages and losses estimated to reach between $3 billion and $5 billion. Reporting this has been Sigrid Castañeda, SMNI News.